From WBAZ Radio, it's Interview with the Artist with Walker Vreeland.
So I want to keep this intro short because it's a long interview. Long and wonderful. Actress Casey Wilson on the show today. Actress and writer Casey Wilson. Star of Marry Me on NBC. Also star of the show Happy Endings, which ran for 3 seasons on ABC. And you've seen her, gosh, all over the place. She was on SNL for a couple seasons. She was in the Oscar-nominated film Gone Girl. She wrote the movie Bride Wars with June Diane Raphael, her comedy writing partner. And she's an old friend. She's an old friend of mine from NYU. We went to acting school together. We both went to the Stella Adler Conservatory of Acting, which I actually just went back to visit a couple weeks ago, which was totally surreal. This was really the first time we'd spoken to each other in a very long time. We sort of lost touch, but I've been following her career, and so I was really, really excited to have her on the show. Oh my God, Casey!
Hi, is this Walker?
Yes, hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
God bless you for having me.
Oh my God, please. It's my pleasure.
I'm very excited.
This is going to be super casual. You know, I have not seen or spoken to you since you got famous.
I'm not famous, so that's going to be the first.
Well, you are famous, and I just want to say congratulations on everything. I mean,
my fame. Thank you.
Not just for being famous, but I mean, you got married last year. You're pregnant. So anyway, it was just really lovely to reconnect, and it was really fascinating to hear her talk about her SNL experience and how the aftermath of that really felt, what she didn't say at the time, what was really going on, what she was really going through. She talks about the recent Happy Endings April Fool's prank. There was a rumor that the show was coming back to ABC. It turned out to be an April Fool's joke. And, mostly I was just very touched by how available she made herself for this interview. She talks about some very real struggles and her willingness to delve deep into her own psyche in order to understand herself. Obviously, I love talking about that stuff. As soon as she said the word psychoanalysis, I was like, oh, well, now this interview has begun. Anyway, truly, she is wonderful. I love her. And I know you will too, after hearing this talk, if you don't already. So let's hear it. My conversation with Casey Wilson. So I want to begin by asking you about Marry Me.
Okay.
Which ran for 1 season on NBC. Is it coming back?
We don't know. It's such a weird thing. Like, we're going to find out right before the upfronts, probably like 20 minutes before we come back. It's 50-50. Like, we were doing well, then we weren't doing well. We're just not sure. We're hearing, like, maybe.
Got it.
But I've been in this boat so many times with every show I always do, so I just kind of hope for the best and try to forget about it. I think we will. I don't know why, but maybe I'm just hopeful.
Well, I'd actually like to play the first scene for Marry Me. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but do you want to set up the scene for us?
Sure, I will. So my character, Annie, has been dating Ken Marino's character, Jake, for over 6 years, 5 or 6 years. And we go to Mexico, and I was fully expecting a proposal. There was no proposal, and now we've just come home from our trip. And I'm basically having a mental breakdown. I've snapped.
You've snapped?
Yeah.
And 2 things are happening that she's unaware of. First of all, Jake has gotten down on his knee, and he's pulled out a ring, and he's ready to propose, but you won't turn around.
Yes, I don't see that he's ready to propose, that he's actually proposing, and I'm just at that place I think women and men have probably been at some point where you're just like, I've had it, I've pretended I don't care, I've been fine with this, and now I'm so furious, and so she's going pretty hard at him and some of his family members.
Yeah.
But she doesn't realize he's on one knee.
Right, and she also doesn't realize that all of their friends and family are hiding in the house, and they're waiting to jump out and yell, congratulations on your engagement. But again, you don't know this. You don't know that anyone's hiding. You don't know that he's proposing because
we're having a private fight.
Exactly. So anyway, it's a great scene, and here it is. This is my guest, Casey Wilson, in the pilot episode of the NBC comedy Marry Me.
I can't believe you didn't propose on this trip, Jake. There, I said it. I said what everyone else has been thinking / asking me for the last 5 years.
Annie, turn around.
You think this is funny? I have been in full hair and makeup for 2 weeks. I painted my nails in the unisex bathroom of a Mexican tour bus. And for what? So my hand looked pretty when we high-fived after you broke your record for most empanadas in a day? What are you waiting for? We're in our 30s, buddy. If we want to have a kid that's not all jacked up, we better get to stepping. We don't even live together.
Wait a second. You're the one who said you didn't want to move in until we got engaged.
I love you, Jake. And I want to be together forever. But do you not love me? Then please free me while I still have an egg. Give me one egg.
Annie, of course.
One egg and I'll pack my bag and I'll go.
Of course I love you, okay? Would you just turn around?
Does your garbage friend Gil get in your head again?
Garbage friend?
Gil didn't get divorced because marriage blows. He got divorced because he went on a 4-year mozzarella marinarathon and now probably can't maintain an erection for as long as sex takes. Your friends are garbage people.
Hey, your best friend always says marriage isn't a good look, whatever that means, and you don't call her a garbage person.
It's a front. Every girl wants to get married, okay? And Denham might think that she's super cool now with her marriage attitude and her stupid rompers, but there's a storm a-coming, and it's called her early 40s, so she better just switch over to AOL tonight, because she's going to be that weird, sad, short-haired aunt who brings a friend to everything.
Oh, my God, that was hard to follow. Would you just turn around?
It's your mom, isn't it?
Watch yourself.
She doesn't like me, does she? Guess what? Don't like her.
She is an angel walking
So
amongst us.
you keep going, and eventually you do turn around and you see that he's proposing. But I have to ask you, have you ever been in a situation like that? I mean, with the understanding that the scene, is using a comedic device of you not turning around. Have you ever been in a situation like that where you said something really negative or critical about someone and that person was in the room or somehow heard you?
I mean, I'm sure I have, and they've just had the decency not to tell me since I'm always just mouthing off. But not that I know of. My husband created the show, and he wrote that scene, and everyone asked, if it's based on us, and I don't think I was that. I hope I wasn't that crazed and desperate before we got married, but I think everyone thinks they're not. I've definitely sent an email before, and this was right after college. June Diane Raphael, who you know, who's my comedy partner still and writing partner, she and I were sending some email, and I got an email from this guy, and I basically forwarded it to June, and I just kind of, to be honest, ripped him. And then I looked up and, of course, realized I'd replied to him. And so I've had that where I remember it was before, you had email on our, handheld, so I was just at a Kinko's, on 6th Avenue. And I just stood up in the Kinko's and I screamed, I need someone to tell me how to delete an email. And nobody, even looked up.
Ugh, that's the worst situation. That panic that you feel.
Oh, it was such panic. And then I call him, but he hasn't seen it yet, so I'm, dancing around it. I'm like, you're going to receive an email. This is crazy. I mean, it's crazy what you're about to see. And he's just like, it didn't go well. Our friendship didn't move forward.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
So again, as you mentioned, your husband is the creator of Marry Me, so you guys worked together on that. And before that, you worked together on the show Happy Endings, which your husband, David Caspe, created as well, and you starred in that show. And in fact, that's how you guys met, right?
Yes. I mean, we're not like those weird couple, I guess, that always has to work together, although maybe it seems like we are. But yeah, I just met him. I auditioned for Happy Endings, and I did that show, a different comedy, for about a year, and then we started dating. For a lot of people, I think when they think about working with a spouse, there's an immediate reaction of oh, I could never do that, or, oh, that would be really great. I think you kind of know what camp you fall in. And I think just because that's how we met, was working together. We had so much fun, and to be honest, because he kind of runs the writer's room and I'm always on set, we really don't see each other that much, maybe an hour a day.
Right.
So it never felt I always felt kind of part of the actors, as though I was with them and he was kind of with the writers. And so, I don't know, it was kind of just a great way to see each other because the days are so long, 15, 16-hour days. And so it was just kind of really fun to have that in common, but it never felt like we weren't driving off to work together and clinking our coffee mugs. Also, I think he writes, and all the writers on Happy Endings and Marry Me really wrote such funny parts for women. I was just glad to be there, honestly, and get to be funny every day.
Well, getting back to Marry Me, I would say that Annie, the character you play on the show, has a lot of neuroses.
Emotional problems.
Yeah, and it's almost like the more she tries to suppress her neurosis, this is just my observation, it's almost like the more she tries to suppress her neurosis, the more she wears it on her sleeve. ironically, which is, of course, where so much of the comedy comes from. Is that how you see her?
I do. I think that's a great way to describe her. I think she's weirdly self-aware enough to know I should hide this, which a lot of people aren't, but at the same time does a terrible job of it. And so I certainly don't think she's in therapy or kind of dealing with anything that she needs to be doing, but I think she's in that constant battle of like, okay, I know I'm really overreacting, I'm having a ton of emotions about this, but I need to stuff it down, and then by doing that, she just gets more and more kind of wound up, which I can relate to as a Italian and as a Scorpio, for anyone who's astrologically inclined. But my husband's always like, you make all these excuses for your anger problem, but you're an actress, and that's the reason.
So you have an anger problem?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, me too.
I think a lot of people do, and I find it so refreshing when someone's just angry in a way, because everyone's trying to be so not angry.
Right.
Too, but I'm just like, I love it when people just fly off the handle. I'm like, I feel you, I hear you, and I see it, and I'm glad it's not me when it's happening.
And you know what else I love? I love bitterness, quite honestly, because there's something really refreshingly honest about someone who's just really committed to being negative.
Yes.
Because we live in this world today where
life has dealt them a bad lot, and they're not going to get off that thought.
Right. And I don't know. I think the reason why it's refreshing to me, at least, is because we live in this world now where negativity does not go over well. It doesn't.
You're so right.
No one wants.
Color on anyone.
Yeah. No one wants to look at the negative. No one wants to hear about anything negative on social media. So, I love anger, and I love bitterness, and I love just blatant mental illness, quite honestly.
Yeah, you love it, especially when it's running rampant. I really, really do, because, I know a couple guys that are angry, and I don't know if it's just from my childhood, when you're like, it's either you're sitting with your dad or, a friend's dad, and they're just getting angry, and you feel, so tense, But now I feel like I love those moments because so many people, and I know you're in New York, but out here in L.A. especially, are so committed to, you know what? I've been rejected, but I'm holding my head high, and this is life's plan for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, you're really fucking angry about it.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But, that's okay. You're spending so much energy trying to act like it's all fine. I'm just kind of I think it's energy a little bit in the wrong place. Channel that. You're angry.
Yes. Yeah, it's okay to be disappointed. And unless you express it, and I think unless you are honest with yourself about that bitterness or disappointment, it will come out eventually.
Absolutely, and it comes out in really weird ways.
Yeah.
Really weird. I have a friend, a girlfriend actually, who you and I went to college with, who shall remain nameless, Laura Kindred. No, I'm kidding. It's not Laura.
Okay.
Who said to say hi to you, sidebar.
Oh, my God. Please send her my love.
Yes, she's an angel, but there's just another friend who I don't even see that much at all, but is just so kind of trying to be cheerful all the time, but then this anger comes out in the strangest ways, to waiters or and it's just yeah, it's okay to just be where you're at.
Yeah. Deal with your shit.
Yeah, and please go to therapy. At least do that. And then if you're angry on top of that, I'm fine with it. At least you're trying.
So, Casey, last week there was talk about happy endings coming back, but then it turned out to be an April Fool's joke, and people got really worked up about this. I mean, your fans of this show are diehard fans, and so whose prank was this? Who is responsible for getting?
To be honest, I was really upset about it and so was my husband, because it's a writer's assistant who wrote on the show, and he runs the Twitter account. Not to call him out or anything, but he knows.
Okay.
I don't know really what he was thinking, to be honest. He thought it was really funny, and I guess maybe the first time it might have been sort of funny, but he basically put up this countdown clock, to April Fool's Day, but kind of implied maybe this news would be arriving about the show coming back or whatever. And I mean, again, is this one of life's tragedies? No, but there has been this amazingly, amazingly supportive contingent of people that love the show and really want to see it come back. And then it just kept going, and my husband and I felt really why is he doing this? My husband told him to stop, and he didn't. And I'm just talk about anger. I'm openly angry with him, to be honest, because and he's a great, sweet guy, but I'm just I don't love that type of joke. It's the joke is simply that you feel stupid. It's well, that's not a funny joke. It's just annoying to people who, I think really want the show to come back. And were really annoyed to report. Then the weird thing that happened along the way with it was that Sony, who owns the show, called my husband and basically said, like, wow, there is such an interest. Let's try to get it going again. So that was really great. So then my husband was like, well, I'm not going to say anything until maybe I will have some news to give. That's positive that's come out of this, weirdly. But then April Fool's has come and gone, and we don't know yet if it's moving forward. So he finally just said, like, I'm really sorry to anyone who thought this was something. But people were very passionately kind of annoyed, and I felt like, I hear you. I feel the same.
Right. You played Penny on Happy Endings, and, you know, she's also a bit nuts, but for different reasons than Annie on Marry Me. How did you understand Penny?
I just found her to be someone who I thought was really funny, which is someone who's been kind of like knocked down romantically a bunch, but is still really positive, actually, and I don't think she's putting it on.
Right.
I just found it kind of funny. You know, she was kind of with it enough to be sarcastic at times, but mainly someone who's just like unlucky in love, but isn't actually bitter about it. Is actually kind of like still hopeful.
Yeah.
At the time. And that just makes me laugh, and I think it's kind of a sweet quality, one I don't possess, but you know, I thought was really funny. But she's also just so hopeful that she gets herself into just, you know, insane situations.
Yeah. Well, her eternal optimism and her lack of filter, I thought, made her very endearing.
Yes, very lack of filter.
Horse bath?
Yeah, David, I did take a horse bath, okay? I had a one-night stand, and I didn't have time to shower. So, did I rub some dryer sheets on my pits and splash some water on my hush in the bathroom of an au bon pain? Yes, I did. I'm sorry that I'm a modern-day single woman who enjoys sex as much as a man. Sue me!
I meant the drink, horse bath. It's gin-based.
No, thank you. I'm on a cleanse. I haven't had sugar in 4 days.
Are you sure you're okay, Penny?
What? Yeah, fine. Why do you ask?
Because you're wearing pajama jeans, pedicure flip-flops, and you're on the verge of tears.
I will have you know that these are not pajama jeans. These are pajoveralls.
You're listening to Walker Vreeland. Follow Walker on Twitter @WalkerOnRadio.
So what we've established here, Casey, is that you have a great ability to play crazy. I mean, really, it is true. It's something I've observed that no one plays a crazy girl quite like you do. And we also...
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We also saw some crazy come out of you in the film Gone Girl, in which you played the nosy neighbor. And I guess I want to be delicate in the way that I ask this. How crazy are you?
In life.
In life. I mean, look, I'm nuts. I'm a fucking nutcase. I mean, I was institutionalized, so nothing you can say.
I'm laughing. I'm like, ah.
Oh no, it's hilarious. Nothing you can say is going to be too much for me. I can handle. I can create the space for it, as they say in some new age circles. So
I appreciate that. I mean, I think I have definitely issues. I have been in psychotherapy, like analysis, for over 10 years, 3 times a week, which I think some people are taken aback by, you know, because I don't think a lot of people, first of all, it's such a time commitment, and not to mention financial commitment and just life commitment to do that. And I only know one other person that's done that at kind of our age, you know?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think, and it's just kind of, I don't want to say out of fashion, but, you know, it can be a very kind of also just privileged thing, I think, of New York and L.A. in a way. But I do think it's helped me so much that I used to just be, so I guess my answer is I've gotten better, but I used to be just awash in emotion all the time, so much more anger that I could control, and it's definitely hurt me. I used to be really have no impulse control, which was just a tough thing to not have, and so I definitely think I've gotten better, and I'm actively always at least trying to get a handle on things. So I don't know how that answers it. I guess maybe just being in so much therapy, I at least can, like, any, like, crazy character or something I play, I think, oh, I get that. I've been there. I can totally see that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, what analysis did for me, I think, was just create an awareness of what my demons were. Yeah. Although I did get to a point eventually, I mean, after having been in therapy and analysis for almost 20 years, where I got everything out of it that I could, and there was a point I reached where I realized I actually had to stop because I needed to get out of my head. I think that can be the trap of therapy or psychoanalysis, is that it encourages such
Scrutiny.
Yes, such scrutiny that you can actually get caught in your mind, and then that in and of itself can sort of make you miserable. So I'm always interested.
100%. And the one turn I've had with therapy in the last 2 years is that, and I totally see that, and you're actually braver than me, though, because I probably should make that step, but I'm just a little too scared, I would say.
Well, you shouldn't stop unless you really want to.
Yeah, I feel like with every life change, it's like, I want to stop, but I'm getting married, or, now I'm having a son. I don't quite feel there, but one thing I did feel which was a huge revelation to me, which was so much time, I'm sure you can understand this, especially when you're paying to go in there, is you feel the need to excavate the darkness and everything going wrong. And I finally felt like I'd like to give a little time to some of the lightness, and then now I'm sounding like one of the LA people I was simply making fun of a second ago, but it doesn't have to be every second spent on what's going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a huge thing for me, because I felt always really guilty or disgusting or ashamed to be but this, I'm actually happy about this.
Yeah.
And it felt really well, who are you to feel, that anything going right is, I was just so hard on myself of nothing's going right, and if it is, it might end, and you shouldn't even allow those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So that's been a turn for me, I would say. It's just sometimes I'm not interested as much into going into the, darkness of it.
Yeah, no, I can certainly understand that. And I think that your willingness to look at yourself has probably made you a better actress, a better artist. I mean, you've really, in all seriousness, you do, and I mean this, you do have a handle on. I'm not sure how to describe it. I think what it is you have a very finely tuned comedic instinct when it comes to portraying women who are a little bit off balance, off kilter, and I think that is just so not just funny but really interesting to watch you in your element. I want to back up a little bit. I knew you during college, and I remember who that Casey Wilson was, from the standpoint of being a classmate, and we had a bunch of mutual friends. You were great friends with Laura Kindred, who was the girl I began dating after I came out of the closet.
Immediately after you came out of the closet.
So, yeah, take a second and let that sink in.
Let that marinate.
Yeah. Anyway,
and I will further report one of Laura's favorite relationships, and I know she wouldn't mind me saying that.
Aw. Well, what can I tell you? The sex was incredible. I mean, you cannot replicate a vagina. There is no man part that does that.
Exactly, and she has that to offer.
Definitely.
Among other things, yeah.
So anyway, my point is, I knew you then, and we lost touch, but I followed your career, and I guess I would love to know how you went from the trajectory of being a serious actress and wanting to be a serious actress to comedy.
Yeah. That's a great question, because I did feel like our training that we had at NYU and at Stella Adler, which was amazing, I felt, but, I mean, crazy and amazing, obviously, but it was really a lot of emphasis, at least I thought when I left Tisch, that it would be now I'm an actress that treads the boards on Broadway doing only Shakespeare and Chekhov, that would be how we would all make our living.
Right.
And correct me if I'm wrong, one mention of the business that awaited us on the other side, I just felt very kind of now I'll do serious work, but I don't know anything. I mean, I didn't even know really to get a headshot. I think did you go to film and television school?
For one semester.
Okay, see, I just was I'm riding Adler out till the bitter end.
Right.
And, it was just such an emphasis, which I love looking back that I gave myself that time, but it was such an emphasis on just the work. I left there feeling if anything, though, I was a little shocked with what the other end of acting is, which is it's a business, and really shocked by it personally.
Well, tell me more about that.
I just felt shocked. I had a really hard time getting an agent and a manager, very hard, and was just told in quick fashion, like, you need to lose weight, you need this, and I was just like, oh my God. Like, I've been, just doing me at the Tasty Delight for 4 years, and now, I just had a hard time, and so June and I, my friend that I mentioned from NYU, we lived in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and, I was an assistant, and she was an assistant, and, we just both had a similar struggle, and so we decided to just one night, just a friend, Allison Meyer, who we also went to school with, asked us to put up a sketch at a thing, and I remember being like, a sketch? Like, what is this? Okay, we will, and it came so easily, and I remember the feeling of just like, wow, this is really fun. We're just creating this, and it hadn't come out of anything at NYU. I mean, we never really, I guess in Noel's class we improv'd, but it was a very different feeling than like a scene study, and it was so fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we thought, let's do another one, and then we kind of put together this 2-woman show that we started doing actually at Adler, and then it got moved over to Upright Citizens Brigade. But the funny thing is when Upright Citizens Brigade, which Amy Poehler started, is this great kind of, and now it's much, much bigger than it was when we were coming up, but, kind of training ground for all different comedians, either stand-ups or improv or sketch or anything. But I remember when we got there, we didn't know everyone was making fun of us because, we came from theater school, and so we were, like, doing our haws and, like, in the backstage.
Vocal warm-ups?
Like, did not come from theater school, where June and I rehearsed for a year before we allowed anyone to see, like, our piece. Meanwhile, these are, like, sketches, just, like, things that you could just, they're so, like, tossable. Like, you come up with a sketch, you throw it away.
Right.
Do it. I was like, June, we need an intensive rehearsal schedule. But we kind of weirdly, like, layered the Adler training over just sketch work. And I have to say, it kind of elevated it a little.
Yes, I believe that. I really believe that.
Because we tried to do sketches that had a little more going on, I guess. And I'm not saying we were, so deep or anything, but I think it helped us, actually.
With this show, this was Rode Hard and Put Away Wet?
Yes.
I think that's the last time I saw you was at that show. And I think I went with Laura. But talk about the doors that show opened up for you.
Well, it's, we did the show for about a year, and, just on its own, that was a little mini business because you had to keep people in the seats to keep your spot. And then ultimately, I think June got an agent and I got a manager off of it, and we got a lawyer, weirdly.
Mm-hmm.
And then we both got into the Aspen HBO Comedy Arts Festival from doing that show. And that was kind of the biggest thing that happened to us, for sure. And it doesn't even exist anymore, but it's such a great festival. It's kind of like Sundance for comedy. And we did that, and then we both got, we got signed with an agency, but they asked us, we thought we were, like, getting signed as actors. It was, like, a really big agency, and we were like, this is it. This is our big break. I'm finally going to become the star that I was meant to be. And when we got there, they said, we're signing you guys as writers. And when I tell you, Walker, that landed with a thud. It was like, writers? They think we're ugly. I was like, this is horrible. I was like, the writers? It was like they said, just slapped us across the face.
Is that the first thing that came to your mind? They think we're ugly.
We were in the bathroom almost crying. June was like, did you hear what she said? Writers. Meanwhile, it's like, that's the best thing that ever happened to us.
Right. And, of course, you're referring to Bride Wars, which you guys were hired to write, and you then landed a development deal. Is that right? Is that how it happened?
Yes, that's exactly how it happened. So it actually was like the best thing that happened to us, and that's kind of how we moved out to LA and kind of started our careers as writers, yes, which now I'm very proud of, but now, writers and actors.
If you're just joining us, I'm speaking with actress and writer Casey Wilson. You were on SNL for 2 seasons. You joined the cast in 2008, and you left right before the 2009-2010 season. And I just want to say I thought you were hysterically funny on SNL. I thought your celebrity impressions were amazing. I thought your Rachel Ray was brilliant. It killed me every single time.
Thank you, Walker. God bless you.
I know you were let go from the show. And when that happened, you said, and I can't remember who you said this to, but you said the show wouldn't define your career. And you were absolutely right. I mean, SNL has not defined your career. But when I read that, I did think, wow, that sounds very level-headed. And it sounds very emotionally healthy. I mean, what?
Trying to hide my anger.
Yeah, I mean, what was really going on inside of you at that time?
I mean, I was really upset, obviously, but I was also, and this sounds like I'm just trying to put this on, but if you've ever had an experience of being at any job, or especially any job, whether it's creative or not, you just know this isn't the right fit, and I'm here and I'm doing it, but I just don't feel like nothing's clicking. This isn't totally right. And I felt like I was sitting on the bench a lot. And it's just not a great feeling. It's like you see the parade going by. It's like everybody's having fun. I mean, no one was having fun, let me be clear. But people were at least, involved. And I just felt really like it was kind of a sense of embarrassment through the whole time. Of like, I'm just not kind of connecting in the way I want to be. And I've said this before, but I kind of described it as going to a dinner party and you're there, but no one's introduced you to anyone. So you're just kind of like wandering around in the background, hoping to talk to someone. And the SNL fans are a very passionate group.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they just, it was just such an eye-opener for me. I mean, I was like ripped to shreds on the internet, and they just didn't like me, but at the same time, I never got to do Weekend Update, which I think is that introduction to the audience. You say, here I am, here's my sensibility, here's my take. Other than that, you're just kind of someone who's doing little bit parts and sketches, and people feel angry about that for some reason. Like, who are you? We're used to these people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I felt like such an anger kind of coming at me.
Mm-hmm. Like almost a sense of betrayal.
Yes, like people were angry, and I
Yeah.
felt it in this really weird way of like, wow, I'm over here just like trying to do my best, and I'm feeling it was just not a great feeling. But that said, everyone's like, oh, you must have been like so scared of Lauren, and did he not like you? And honestly, I think Lauren really did like me, and I know he did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I wasn't scared of him at all, had a very nice rapport with him. It just wasn't the right fit.
I heard you say, I think this was on a podcast, that you weren't really in the frame of mind to have been on the show, and I'd love to hear you talk more about that. What exactly did you mean by that?
Yeah, my frame of mind was not in a good spot. My mom had just passed away very suddenly. And then I got the show, and I was just, the best way to describe it is just, like, unmoored. I was just so out of it. And, again, that's not excusing it. I don't think I possess the exact right skill set for this, no matter what frame of mind. But I was just, like, out of it. And I started taking antidepressants because I really felt like therapy, nothing's getting me out of this hole. Like, it had been a year. No, it had actually, been a year right when I got the show.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, that's when I started to really feel bad about my mom. It was like the first year was kind of its own blur, but then I was like, oh no, this is what's happened. And now I'm moving and I'm kind of doing this job 80 hours a week with no sleep, and I'm unsure, and it was just a mess.
And probably at the time that you needed your mom the most, she wasn't there.
Yeah, it was just such a mess, and my mom loved SNL so much, and she would have been so happy, so it was this weird thing to also be kind of failing at it. And feeling like, oh, this isn't how I wanted this to go. And, I think there's this, like, sometimes you have these strong dreams, and you're just like, when I get that, then I'll be happy. Like, if I can just get that. And it was not that experience.
Are you grateful for the experience?
I am grateful, but some parts of me, to be honest, are like, there is a part of me, to be honest, that's like, I wish I hadn't done that. Because in some ways, it didn't go well, but then also it held me back a little bit after, because it was like, well, people don't want to see you because they think of you as a sketch performer. But I wanted to say, but the people who hired me don't think of me as a sketch performer. That's why I let me go.
Right, clearly.
Quite clearly, that's not what I am. And it was all fine. I am grateful to it, and to Lauren for sure. But I still am honestly unclear of what it was.
Casey, from what I know about SNL, from what I've heard about it over the years, I almost think of the show as a microcosm of the business in a way, or an extreme version of show business. It's like if show business is sports, SNL is extreme sports, where you're constantly having to fight to be seen, to get your work seen, to prove yourself, to make a name for yourself, to receive that validation. I mean, would you say that's a fair analogy?
Totally, and to go through it, you might be riding high on Saturday after a great show, but then you start right again going through it on Monday. And then the next week is its own roller coaster. And I think the one thing I am grateful for, I will say, now you said that, is like, after having gone through that, really nothing scares me. Like, I'm not scared to audition for David Fincher. I'm not scared I'm just not, to do a network table read or whatever it may be. I'm just not at all.
That's so interesting, because I think about that a lot. In relation to my own experience in the business, as an actor for a while and then in broadcasting, I think a lot about how strong you have to be. And what does that mean to be strong? Does it mean the ability to fight? I think I often perceive other people who are in the spotlight, who have reached certain levels of notoriety and therefore they're susceptible to everything that comes with that, the highs and the lows. I think I often make an assumption that, well, that person just must have an armor that I'm not entirely sure I'm capable of having, or that person is just built for the fight. And what if I'm not built for the fight? So I think a lot about that. But I will say, what I've learned from talking to people like you is that, yes, some may be more naturally disposed to fight for themselves and to be in those environments, but no one has armor. Regardless of their degree of fame, at the end of the day, a human being is a human being, and it hurts to feel rejection, and it hurts to feel criticism on any level.
100%. And I think the few people I've seen that do seem, because there are some people out here that you just look at them and you're like, wow, you don't seem to be kind of like you're so confident, you don't seem to, that anything would ever slow you down, Typically those people are assholes, to be honest, but I'm also have such an admiration for them too, because I'm like, God love you, you have a confidence in yourself that's not going to quit. And I'm kind of like, well, but that's what this was like. You're the only one that can kind of have confidence in yourself, but at the same time, I do feel like being an actor is about being sensitive, and so if you strip that, if you work so hard that you're not sensitive, it's like, but then how are you going to do your job when you have to show up?
Exactly. Then you're getting rid of the most valuable part of you as an artist.
Yeah, and I think you're right, though. I think at the end of the day, if you really were to ask everyone in their most private moment, everyone is just as sensitive as everyone else, and it's just kind of how you kind of come back.
What was your rapport with Lorne like?
It was really great. Really, really great, and very friendly, very easy, and he's got, obviously, great sense of humor.
Did he tell you that he was letting you go?
No, he did not. No one told me. Basically, my manager called, and my manager represented, at the time, Kristen Wiig and Bill Hader and Bobby Moynihan, and she's like, they do this really archaic thing where they fax over your contract, and she's like, we only got 3 faxes, and we didn't get another one, and that's how they told me.
Wow.
So I was like, can you check again? Was it low on paper?
Right. Did it fall behind the fax?
Yeah. So, no, there was never any, discussion or anything.
Wow.
So that was it. It weirdly was not upset by that, but I was upset. I remember when, like a month later, they sent my stuff back from my desk, and I had all these, family photos up, and each host would give the cast members a nice bottle of alcohol as, a gift, at the end of each week. So there was a ton of alcohol, as you can imagine, and family photos, and they just threw it all in a box with, no peanuts or anything. And when I opened it, it was just, I started crying, but I was also laughing because it was really comical. It was, all my most treasured memories of, my mom and family just covered in glass and soaked in alcohol, just, a box of shit.
Oh, my God.
This has been my experience. I'm looking into this box, and that's it. This is a perfect metaphor.
So exactly. I was just going to say.
Nobody gives a fuck. Here's your stuff, and it's destroyed, and now you go home and deal with it. Again, there are so many worse things in the world. I'm not sitting here this was so...
Yeah. Well, on a more positive note, who were your favorite cast members? Who did you love to both work with and be around?
I absolutely adored Kristen Wiig. She was just my favorite and kind of closest to me. I really liked everyone. I never felt like, oh, these people don't want me to succeed or any of that. It's just there's only so much time, but it was certainly never and these people are trying to make me not succeed. It was no, I'm the only one keeping me from succeeding.
Mm-hmm. What has most surprised you about fame?
I think that it just gets harder emotionally to have put yourself out there. And I'm not even hardly famous at all, but weird things happen, and people say things to you that are kind of their own thing, and it just doesn't end, I would say. You're like, oh, great, here I am. Now I feel good. It's like, no, I still want that, and I see that that person has that, and how come I can't get into that, or whatever it is. It's just constantly, like, coming up against trying to come up with more work and continue to be creative and kind of keep yourself feeling good, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, what you said earlier about, you know, you have this idea that once you reach a certain level or you reach a certain goal, that then your whole life is going to change. You think your whole reality is going to change. It's like going to be an entire overhaul of your life, a complete paradigm shift. And then you get there and you realize, oh, no, this is just the next thing.
Yeah, and I will say, when I got Happy Endings after SNL, that was the biggest life change I've had. I did feel, okay, wow, this is what I've needed. This is where I should be. It changed everything for me, that job. But after that, then I went back to my normal unhappy self. No.
Thank God.
Yeah, of course.
You are pregnant.
Good for a year.
What was that?
I was living happy for a real nice couple years there.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you can hope for. And then you can sort of coast on that year of happiness for a while.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I find that one experience, I'll sort of coast on it.
Yeah.
For a period of time. You are pregnant. How pregnant are you at this point?
I'm 8 months.
Now, I did see you on the Today Show, and you said it's been a rough pregnancy.
Yeah. I just had a pretty rough go in the beginning, but again, I mean, I sort of feel bad even saying that because so many people I know are even struggling to get pregnant, so that's the one thing I'm like, you know what, happy to be here, honestly. But I think it was rough. I'm not built for, I was shooting Marry Me, and for the first 20 weeks, I just literally felt like a horrible flu or the worst hangover, just kind of 24 hours a day for 20 weeks, and I was shooting like 15-hour days. It was just it was a very hard time. Doing both. It was like, oh, I've gotten this job. I'm the lead of a show. It's so exciting. But physically, my body's like setting a limit for me that is not compatible with this show and what's kind of required of me physically. And so it was just this battle of like, I'm trying to do both, but I'm being like shut down at every turn. I mean, I would have to do scenes and just sit quietly and like stare at the floor and not even talk to people, which is just so not me. You know, and I'd have to take an hour nap in the middle. You know, I felt so sick. Yeah. It was just a strange experience.
Did you tell Fit Pregnancy magazine that you were having a rough pregnancy?
I did. I was like, they didn't really want to hear it, though. I was like, yeah, being pregnant's horrible. And they were like, anyway.
Yeah, you're on the cover. Yeah,
positive.
I should mention you're on the cover of this month's issue of Fit Pregnancy magazine. And you're looking pretty happy on the cover, I have to say.
I am. I was feeling good then. I was feeling good at the cover.
You know how those pregnancy magazines, those mother magazines, there's always a pregnant woman on the cover who's just beaming. You know, she's got the pregnancy glow, and she's just looking full of life and healthy. I think it would be amazing if they started putting unhappy, unglowing pregnant women on the cover of those magazines.
I would love that. And I tried to tell it like it was because I did feel like, well, someone's going to be reading this. 80% of women that I know have a very tough first trimester, and nobody ever mentioned this to me. So I thought, oh, this is going to be like a real honest interview. Like, they're going to love this. And it wasn't quite that.
Sitting with your legs spread, leaning over, panting, sweating.
I mean, that's what it's like.
You said you lost your mother in 2005. I'm so sorry.
Oh, thank you.
I'm wondering, is it difficult to be pregnant and not have your mom there? And, you know, I'm sure even if you weren't pregnant, it would be difficult not having your mom in your life. But I guess I'm wondering, are there moments where you have a question or you think to yourself, God, I really wish my mom was still alive so I could talk to her about being pregnant and getting ready to be a mother?
Oh, of course. I mean, I think, you know, anyone who's lost someone very close to them can kind of attest to this. I would think that, you know, it's so, these types of losses, and I don't want to say especially being younger, but I think sometimes, and this is never to say that anyone who loses their parent is easier, but I might have wished to lose a parent when I already had my own family, but I was just so kind of, didn't have a boyfriend. I just felt very like I said, just kind of out there, you know. It was like a strange time, and again, not to say whenever anyone loses anyone, it is what it is to them, but for me, I felt like I just didn't have anything I felt like to fall back on, really. And I think, but then you kind of, I would really say it took me a good 5 years to start just feeling normal again, to be honest. Like, I was definitely obviously working and, like, going about life and hanging out and dating and all of that, but in my brain I was like, I just don't feel right. And about 5 years, which is a long time, I started feeling, okay, I'm starting to feel, and so that's when I hear someone's lost someone close to them, what I feel so sad about is, like, the journey that they don't know they're about to go on.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not a year journey, and it's not getting through the funeral. Like, that is the least of it. And so anyway, to answer your question, I just feel like, but just when you're like, I'm feeling good, this isn't as, like, painful as it was, and the anniversary isn't as bad, which you both want but also don't want. But then when new life stages come, like even the wedding and, just like, oh, my mom's, never going to meet my husband, it's hard. It's a lot. And I just think it's like the grief process kind of keeps evolving and hits you with new things as, like, your life progresses. There's more that person isn't there for. And a lot of it is mostly, it sounds weird, it's not as much that I'm sad my mom's not here, it's more I'm sad for her that she's not going to get to meet her child.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of sadness surrounding what my mom's missing out on.
Mm-hmm. How's your dad?
He's good. He had a very rough time, but he just got remarried this year, which is its own odyssey, of course. And, but he's good. My dad went through, like, a really manic time to where we were all like, wow, I see what my mom was doing for my dad. She was, like, tethering him to earth.
Mm-hmm.
He just, like, went through a crazy period after she passed away. He got arrested. He got a perm. So crazy.
He got arrested and he got a perm?
Yeah, separate occasions.
Oh, my God. That's...
Yeah, it was so comical, and I was laughing the whole time, but I was also like, I'm really worried about this person.
Right.
It's very funny, but it's also really scary.
But things have settled down now for him, yeah?
Yes, they have. And so it's one of those things where you're like, at first, I really don't want him to get remarried because what about my mom? But then you're like, I really need him to get remarried.
Yeah.
He needs someone.
I have one more question for you. I was listening to some of your podcast appearances over the last few years.
My podcast circuit tour.
Yes. And on one of them, you were talking about Gwyneth Paltrow and how she's basically marketing the Gwyneth Paltrow lifestyle. And I thought I would ask you, what is the Casey Wilson lifestyle?
Well, I've joked about that because I said to someone, like, I do find it funny, like, with Gwyneth Paltrow being the exception. Like, Gwyneth Paltrow's got a life I look at, and I'm like, I'd like to hear more. What are you up to? That kind of wish fulfillment, like. But then now I'm seeing all these actresses that are like, and even friends who have, like, 200 followers that I see them like, here's my daily beauty routine. It's like, nobody's calling for you to be a lifestyle advisor, sweetie. Like, let the people demand that before you give it to us.
Right.
It's making me laugh so hard. I have friends who are, like, setting up their Instagram with, like, all their finds for spring. I'm like, nobody wants this from you. I'm sorry. And I always think of, like, I did lifestyle. People would be like, ooh. I'd be like, here to how to not clean out your car. Here's how. It's just, it makes me laugh. It's like, so I don't know really what my lifestyle.
Well, if you ever get one, if you ever get a lifestyle, I will.
If I get a lifestyle going, I would love to sell it.
I will follow that shit. I will. Any kind of beauty regimen or...
I'll take it.
I'll take it. I'll cook it.
Like, well, you know what? Maybe people are calling for it. You see me immediately set up like a thing.
Well, I've been speaking with actress and writer Casey Wilson. Casey, it has been so wonderful catching up with you.
A pleasure. You're so sweet. I'm really, really, really glad to hear your voice again.
Do you ever come to the Hamptons?
God, I wish. I do feel like I see things going on out there, like online, and I'm like, I got to get at that. You remember I don't know if you do remember, I came to your parents' house one weekend.
That's right. Oh, my God.
You invited me, and I'll never forget it. It was like talk about lifestyle. I was like, I got to get this. There was a lot of people there, and I felt like I was taking the jitney. I was like, well, I'm now finally living. Like, I'm now living the life I was meant to live.
I've made it. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Well, listen, you always have a place to stay. If you ever come out here, let me know. I'd love to see you.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, sweetie. Take care.
Take care, Walker.
I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Interview with the Artist comes to you from WBAZ Radio. Leave your comments and listen to past episodes on our website, interviewwiththeartist.com. Thanks for listening.